Virgin Media Shorts, championing undiscovered talent.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to this first session of the Virgin Media Shorts Open Day. I'm here with Jason Wingard and David Isaac, and we're going to talk in this first session just a little bit about the writer-director dynamic. I just want to ask first how many writers or budding writers we might have in the room, and how many, so you can put your hands up, writers, and how many budding directors or directors we have in the room. Oh, that's brilliant. That's a really healthy mix then. And how many do we have who consider themselves to be writers and directors? Okay, that's quite unusual for short film. Actually, it's normally a few more of those. Just to introduce myself first, my name is Caroline Cooper-Charles. I'm a Senior Talent Executive for Creative England, which is an agency which supports and nurtures filmmaking talent from the English region. So we cover everywhere outside of London that's in England, basically. And I've met these guys before because they're both based in the Northwest. They work together as a writing and directing team, also separately on their individual projects. So I'm going to start just to ask you each a little bit about your individual backgrounds before you developed this meaningful relationship. What were you both doing?
Well, I was a footballer at first. I played at Man City for a few years and Rochdale, and played overseas in America. Then I came back and started doing stand-up comedy, and then I failed at both, by the way. So, and then I
worked for Virgin for a while. Selling,
No, I didn't work for Virgin, David, but thanks for that. But then I started making films about 10, 15 years ago. So there's a pattern there of not wanting a proper job, and that's where it's led me.
Okay, and David, what about you?
I was a lawyer for 13 years. I was a solicitor, and I hated every minute of it. And I was always looking for a way out. And I started to have funny thoughts, and so I bought little books, and whenever I thought of something funny, I'd write it down. And I progressed from there. I turned these ideas into sketches, and then sketches turned into a sitcom. And this is all in the 90s. And I got it typed up, because it was the days before computers, really. And sent it off to various places, and they all rejected it. But some said it was funny. And when I first moved to Manchester, I'd shared a house with this girl who I knew was Jason's lover. And so I got in touch with Jason because I knew that he'd been making films, and showed him some of my work. And he was working on some taxi shorts, just him with a camera and some actors. And he asked me if I'd like to have a go at writing a sitcom based on those, and that's how we met and how we started working together.
Yeah. Plus, also a lot of people had offered to write for me on this particular comedy that we were doing, and a lot of the times people wouldn't deliver anything. But David came back like 2 weeks later, I think, with like 60 pages. So I was like, okay, I found somebody who wants to write, and that was it.
So up until that point, had you been writing material yourself? Had you tried working with other people?
I'd worked with other people. I'd worked with a lot of stand-up comics from up in the Northwest. I mean, a lot of people who are quite famous now who kind of started up there, and various times I'd worked with them. But a lot of the time they're good at writing jokes for themselves, but writing stuff that's kind of like more broad or for a sitcom they're not so good at, and stuff with story and structure. Then so I think it's finding somebody who can do both, write jokes and also write stuff that is going to fit into a structured sitcom.
Mm. So obviously for you it was quite a chance fortuitous thing that you there was a sort of personal relationship that drew you together. I mean, in terms of other people you might have worked with, or is it worth people kind of having a strategy for going out? And if they, you know, if you're a director and you think, where do I find a writer? You know, where can people sort of start looking? Is there any kind of science to it? Any kind of strategy?
Well, the science to it was always who owned kit, who owns lights, who owns kit, and they're always your best friend in the initial instance, I think. But with writing, I suppose it's about your personal relationship, and you're only going to find that out by, you know, trial and error, I suppose, and going and trying to work with lots of different people. I mean, film's really collaborative anyway. You can't do it on your own, so you need to be working with other people. So, but I think you've just got to go and try and see who fits. You know, it's a bit like finding a partner, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think as well, my philosophy has always been to follow every lead, because you don't know where it'll end up. So there's times where, you know, someone's rung me to say, oh, I know in the past, before I was doing it professionally, so there's a producer from the BBC, she's going to be at this comedy club, and you drag yourself down there and you force yourself to introduce, and you embarrass yourself and you wish you'd never done it. But years later, that same producer came across a sketch that I'd written and put it onto a TV pilot. And the same with Jason, that I knew that Rebecca was seeing Jason, and I knew he'd done a film course, and I just rang to see really whether he thought I should do the film course, and he said no, but come and have a look at these things that I've made. And that led to then...
That's great.
No, it was a spice rack. No, but it was... that's following that tenuous lead just led to me meeting Jason and then sparking up a working relationship. And I do think there's a certain amount of luck in that we do share a sense of humour which is very similar. And I have worked with other people before where your sense of humour is very different. And obviously it's different for comedy and drama and other things, but I only want to do comedy. And if you find someone where your sense of humour doesn't quite click, you can't move past certain points because they'll insist on putting in a joke which isn't going to work, or a character that won't work, and they can't see beyond it, and that's the end of the relationship then. And you do need to, I think, find someone that is on your wavelength so that you can work together. But that said, also, it's nice to have someone there that's got a slightly different sense of humour, because they can say to you, well, that's not going to work. And it's also nice to work with the director, because he can say that's not going to work on screen. It might work on paper, but it won't work. It won't translate to the screen. Whereas another writer won't be able to tell you that. So it's nice to work with someone who has a different discipline.
And do you think it's easier from either from a writer or a director's perspective to kind of know whether the relationship's going to work because it's comedy? And obviously the thing that kind of drew you guys together in the first place was that you were both working in the comedy arena. Do you think it's kind of it's an easier scenario in which to know whether you click? I mean, you said, you know, if you find the same things funny, obviously.
I think it's the same mechanism though for if you're doing drama or anything else, you know, or you find people that it just feels natural and easy with. I think that's always been the key, because, you know, not just I'm talking about other collaborations that I've had, or, you know, other films that we've worked on. It's always felt really easy and natural, and everyone likes each other's company, and I think that's kind of like, when it's like that, it's really nice, isn't it, making films, when you want to go on set and you want to be with your friends, and everybody gets it, and there's no real bickering, it's just that everyone's
But also,
happy to be there.
It has to be like that, because you will have hard times. You have times when it's really tough. Script-wise, you know, if you're working through notes that someone's given you, or if the script isn't working, you've got to have that easygoing relationship that you can tackle those difficult moments, because it will take you time to work through them. And if there's problems in the relationship, then you won't work through those difficult moments.
So what was the first thing that you worked on together, and how when you were working on that, was there a kind of an immediate sense of, oh yeah, now I've definitely found the person that I feel like I could have a bit more of a kind of long-standing relationship with?
We did some shorts for Channel K, who are based in Manchester, an independent production company. They took some of our taxi shorts, and they got 20,000 from To Entertain for us to make. I think it was it 10 10 2-minute shorts. And so it was kind of like it was the first thing that we'd worked on together. It was a paid job, and somebody else was saying that we like your stuff. So that was the validation that I think that we needed in the initial instance to go, okay, yeah, this is working. And then we worked together on those scripts, and everything was fine, and and so it was just kind of things were just naturally, organically developing between the two of us.
Yeah, I think, but you do sort of, you learn, don't you? I think we work better now than we did then, because we know each other for longer. Because it's always hard as a writer when someone tells you that they don't like your idea and they don't think it's funny. And I remember feeling, I've not told you this before, you might swear now, but when we were doing those taxi sketches and you say, oh, that one's funny, but that one's not, and you sort of, as a writer, you're thinking, I'm not sure why. But now we've been working together probably for about 5-6 years. You do know why, because you start to understand how the other person operates. So I think those relationships can develop and get stronger with the more you work together.
Yeah.
Like a marriage.
And so tell us what you've talked about taxi shorts. Tell us what do you mean by taxi shorts? What was the kind of brief for that?
I'd done a series of films called Where To Make, which were just me and a couple of friends, a comedian called Peter Slater and a guy called Van Nazir, where I'd gone out with just them, and we'd write a set of jokes and we'd do them the same day, and we took them to the production company and they really liked them. From that we got this commission, and the commission was for us to do the same again, but to have a series of celebrities in the back of the cab. So we got like John Henshaw and Johnny Vegas and a load of other people, and we wrote sketches for them, and we did some of it was improv, and some of it worked and some of it didn't, but it was all a good experience all the same. And also we were being paid for it, which is kind of like one of the main things. Those first paid commissions I think are really important, because they kind of give you the confidence that you're doing the right thing. So that's what these were, and they were actually for T-Mobile, and they ended up going online, but they tried to charge for them, and obviously you don't charge for anything online, so they learned the hard way.
It's a shame, because some of them were very good, but no one ever saw them.
Yeah.
And we couldn't put them out then,
Yeah.
because they wanted to charge for them, so,
Okay, we're going to, I hope this is going to work.
A famous person once said Monday is an awful way to spend 1/7 of your life. Monday's Charlie's furry face. I tell you what, I like to punch half of my passengers in the face.
No, hang on, I said where are you going? You said the airport, and I said are you going to holidays? And that's racist. You're one of them, aren't you? You're playing the card. You're playing the race
here we
card.
go. One of them.
Yeah.
What do you mean by one of them? A
One of
Taliban?
them.
You mean something like a Taliban? Is that what you're going on about?
Race
Nah,
card.
mate. I should phone the base and say, this guy here is coming out with some rubbish, mate. He's coming out with some rubbish. I get in the car. He's like, which country are you going to blow up?
Nothing good ever happens on a Monday. You know what? I don't think I want to do taxiing for long. I hate it. But then there's Jackie. Lovely Jackie. Take her shopping every Monday. In fact, that's the best thing about Mondays is just taking Jackie doing a shopping. I wish the journey would last longer, but it only takes about 5 minutes to get to Asda. So I did one of them speed dating things, but women need time to decide if they like you. The women are funny, aren't they? It's more about personality with them.
Do they do a points card or anything at Asda?
No.
Sainsbury's
They do, they haven't offered it to me.
Alright, I know Sainsbury's
Yeah,
do.
Tesco's has a club.
Tesco's as a club, that must be the same thing then. Every time you get something you get points.
Why does she always book me? She asked for me specifically, not Rizwan at a SEFTA. Maybe she's thought, hey up, he's alright. So she's booked me again, and she's gone, nice fella too, switched on.
Alright mate, had a bit of a session there. 125 Kings Road. You are kidding me, you dirty bugger! Get out of me cab!
I'm going to ask Jackie out because I really like her. The worst that can happen is no. And the best thing that could happen is like something could happen and I could, you know, get a shag out of it. I just think there's something there, like there's a connection, you know. I can't place my finger on it, but I think that's what's exciting. I can't place my finger on it, you know. It's like when you eat like a meal. You think, I wonder what they've put in this pasta, just to give it that, you know, bit more. I'm not comparing it to a bowl of pasta, but I'm just like saying there's just something there. There's just like that ingredient.
Are you alright? Oh.
Have you met my boyfriend? This is Adam.
How you doing, mate? You alright?
Oh, yeah. Are you, Adam? You alright?
I don't know what it is with Mondays, but nothing ever good happens on a Monday.
I love that. I think that's absolutely fantastic film. So tell us a little bit about how that sort of came together as an idea. I'd like to sort of just use that as a bit of an example to talk through your process of working together.
One of the original the sketches set in a taxi that Jason showed me that he made was this lovely sketch about where Peter was the driver and a woman gets into the back of his cab and she's upset, she's crying, and she just tells him to drive or take him to the airport or something. And she slowly reveals that she's split up from her husband, and then she ends up coming on to him, and he's so awkward about it, he doesn't know how to deal with it, but he's really turned on. And it was a lovely little sketch. And we were talking about, there was a film competition, wasn't there? Was it Reed's?
Reed did one, yeah, for Mondays.
About Mondays, and I thought that we should do a version of that love story and use that original sketch as the basis for it.
We were talking as well because I've noticed in Virgin Shorts that their love stories had done really well. You know, particularly with PG rating. We weren't confident that we could do a love story, so this was our anti-love story, which was, you know, about somebody being in love with somebody. It's all in his own head, which is an idea that amused us.
Yeah. I mean, it works as a comedy, but it also does work very beautifully as a love story. I think it's very sad and very moving.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's kind of like, you know, that's our experience of love, really. It's always in our heads. No one else's.
Okay, and then when you actually, how do you kind of work together on the writing process? I mean, is it just, you know, you kind of take the idea and then go away and kind of sit in a room and work on it and then come back and show stuff to Jason? And he goes,
no, it varies, doesn't it?
It just happens.
No, it varies. Sometimes we kind of like we've done it in different ways. So kind of like there was a sitcom script that we'd written, and I wrote 15 pages and then handed it over and said, "Oh, you write the other 15, and we've got 30 pages. We can send it in." And Avalon picked it up. So you know that method worked. And then there's other times where we back a script backwards and forwards. On this particular one, I think that you wrote that. You wrote the script, and then kind of like that was pretty much the shooting script. We went out and then I did the work on it as we were out shooting.
I think it varies actually depending on whose idea it is, and I think the sitcom idea, which was sort of largely your idea, came from you, and then we developed the story together. You felt like you knew it well enough to go and sit and write it, and there's other times where we've had an idea sort of at the same time, and we sat down together and planned it, and where we've beat out the story so we know what the structure is. And then as the writer, it's my job then to just go away and put it all down on paper and pass it over to Jason, who is a writer as well, and he can then see what I've done and build on that and take stuff out that isn't working and then add stuff in that is stronger.
Dave is really good with dialogue, I find, and it's something that, you know, that once if I can see dialogue on the page, then you go, I can build on that, I can figure out how this is going to work and move it around structurally. So most of the time you'll do the first draft, won't you? Yeah. On Looters, the film that we're going to be shooting next month, that one originally it was a phone conversation, and then we met up and I said, okay, here's the beats of the story, and we went to the pub, I think, and he just wrote down 15 beats of the story, and that was enough to start the first draft of that. Yeah. But so it's kind of like it's a collaborative thing right from the off.
Yeah.
And do you find, I mean, tell us a little bit about Looters, because this is the short you're now doing with the support of the BFI.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that and how that's going, because that's probably a more formal script and writing development process than you're used to, is it?
It is, yeah. Do you want to start?
Well, do you want to talk about the genesis of the idea? Because obviously Jason won Virgin Media Shorts last year with his film T20, so he won a prize which was funding for a new film. And so you could probably talk better about the process you went through in coming up with.
Well, we came up with another idea actually, which they were kind of like, it was actually I'll just explain what the idea is first of all. Looters is set in the future, it's a comedy, and we're subverting the riots where all of the people that are rioting are now middle class, and so it's a middle class riots. And it's about a guy called Jimmy who works at a supermarket, and all of these middle class rioters are coming to the supermarket to try and get middle class items. And that's basically the premise of and within that we've built a love story. It's a high concept idea, but we think it's going to work. And we're really quite happy with the script, although the script has got people divided, there's no doubt about it.
Yeah, I think we always wanted to do something about the riots if we could, because we felt quite strongly about the riots which happened last year that there was a political motivation behind it, and that felt to us like that got brushed under the carpet and it was just blamed on criminality of individuals, which obviously there was an element of that to it, but we wanted to explore that in our film. And the first idea that we came up with was set on a street where there was a riot, and it was going to be told through rap, wasn't it? And it just sort of evolved from there through the input of other people at the BFI suggesting certain changes, and it's evolved over about 30 rewrites, hasn't it?
Yeah.
Up to draft 34 or something now.
Well, it's interesting. It's been really good to have like script editors on board and people that were kind of like obviously just steering you in a certain direction. But I just think it's been really, really valuable process this year. You know, kind of like working in a more professional way, really.
And how long's that development period taken then? How long?
Probably about about 8 months. About 8 months to get to where we are now, where we've got a script that we're ready to go and shoot, and we're attaching talent to it. Thomas Turgoose is going to play Jimmy from this, the guy from This Is England, and we're just attaching up a cast to it now.
And what did you find the sort of the trickiest point in the development process? Did you have your kind of moments where you were going, oh no, we should get rid of that character, or they shouldn't do that, or?
We never disagreed about it at all. I think that we've got the ability now to talk things through. We did our features in the summer, and then that was a really, really hard development process because it's a full feature. And I think we learned a lot about each other then and how we communicate. And so this, I think...
Also working with other people as well. I think you learn, not as volatile as I used to be.
Yeah.
In the old days, I'd be like, no, I'm not changing a thing, but these days you kind of sit back and you take it on board and listen, and everyone's got the best interest of the project at heart, really.
Yeah, it's always hard to deal with notes though, because I've written stuff before, and whenever you get notes, your initial reaction, because it's suggesting something different from what you've written, is I don't agree with them, and that's your gut instinct, and they're not right. And you just have to leave it for 24 hours, and you come back to it, and then you see them in a different light, and you think, actually, they are right, and I can make this better. Actually, no, I don't think. I think I can't make this better. And then as you start to write, you think, this is better, it's getting much better. And then the next set of notes come in, and you go through the same process again. And when you've got two of you doing that, it makes it doubly hard. But you do work through it, and you learn from it as well.
Yeah, it's been entertaining.
I think often when people start out with their filmmaking careers, they're sort of doing everything. So they're the writer, the director, the producer, probably camera. They're doing all their own.
You've got to trust people, haven't you, to do their job?
Yeah. I mean, is that how helpful is it? Do you think if you can kind of find those people to collaborate with, kind of early on? I mean, do you have a producer that you work with regularly?
We
or-
have. I mean, we've got we were talking about producers on the way up. I think that kind of getting good producers is really vital, you know, to...
Emphasis on the word good.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's kind of like we were discussing what we thought a good producer was and what we thought a bad producer was. You know, not a bad producer, because, you know, just someone that wasn't going to work well with us. And we've had experiences of both. And there was an instance when we took just a clip in from YouTube, someone defecating on a shopping aisle, and the producer was kind of laughing, and you know, we were going, actually, this is a producer we want to work with. They get what we were trying to do in this particular script. And there was another producer who just didn't get any of our jokes and was not laughing at all and didn't find it amusing. And you're going, well, no, they're not the person that you want to work with. And also, when we've been working in television, we kind of found that there's some producers who almost felt like they wanted to be writers or they wanted to be directors, and they're people that you're obviously going to clash with at some point as well. So a producer that wants to produce is good, but we've got a good relationship building with Mike Elliott at EBU Films, and Mike's really good. He's working with us on this Lutus script, and he's got a wealth of experience as well.
I think that's right. A producer who wants to produce is key. The second thing is a producer who genuinely gets your thing and who isn't just going to change it to fit what they want. They've got to get your... Then once they get that, they can then facilitate you as a writer or a director or both to improve your project, and they can give you the right advice, because a producer can, you know, really help improve a project, but they can ruin it as well.
Yeah, but also the kind of the producers who've got the most experience tend to be the ones with the least to prove, and are also easier to work with because they've done it. Yeah. And the ones that are still climbing can sometimes, you know, that's where I found the clash. You go pulling you in different directions than you want to go in, and that's not necessarily for the benefit of the project.
And how would you advise people? I mean, obviously, you know, if you take part in something like Virgin Media Shorts, you get and win, then you get a kind of a sort of profile which will obviously help you go out and find good producers to work with and find good writers to work with. But I know a lot of people at the beginning of their careers feel really isolated and don't even know where to start. So have you got sort of any advice for kind of people in the room who might feel like that? It's like, oh well, it's all very well if you've won an award, but if you haven't and you're just starting out, kind of
go to Caroline. That's okay. Go to Caroline, and that's
thank
you know.
you.
I think that's the idea, isn't it? I mean, the thing is that that's your kind of your role in the North is to kind of get us with the right people.
Yeah.
And so that's, you know, so never be scared to ask the advice of people who are working in the industry, and most of the time they're more than happy to pass on knowledge or pass on advice, or you know, or to set up meetings. And so that's what we've found, you know. And we're just learning that ourselves, and kind of, I think you have to remind yourself as well at certain points, you know, to go and ask people who've already done it for their advice, because they're happy to pass that advice on.
I think it's easier as well for someone like you to create something, because obviously you've got the ability to just actually go and film something, and you know comedy, and you can write. As a writer, as a pure writer, I think it's harder, because obviously all you can produce is a script. So it's probably more important for a writer to find a director to work with. Maybe, I don't know. I might be oversimplifying that. 220 was an interesting one though, because we went in the year before with Bus Baby, and we knew that Bus Baby wasn't going to win. We knew that sign language was going to win. We'd analysed the films, and we were getting quite good at analysing the short films and breaking them down. And there was all of the winning films have got a similar structure, you know, a real simple beginning, middle, end, a solid central theme running through all of them. Most of the central themes were love. We didn't think that we could do a love story without, you know, giggling like puerile little boys. So we decided to do a death story, and that came out of the Virgin Media Shorts Awards night the year before. We were having a conversation and said, well, why don't we do a film, you know, in real time, you know, real time, someone dying in real time, and that's where the idea for 220 came from.
I think that's a really good piece of advice, actually. Just generally to kind of think. A lot of people making short films, I think, don't spend enough time watching other short films, and I think that's the fact that you looked at what the other films were delivering.
We looked at the winner, yeah.
You know what the winning film had about it.
We looked at Black Hole actually, because I thought that Black Hole was like the perfect example of a short film which was cinematic. There was no dialogue, and so that's what we did deliberately with 220. We made a film that was going to be purely visually told, try and make it as cinematic as possible. We didn't have any lighting, so we kind of got clever with the location and went out to the most, garishly lit place that we could find, which was Rusholme in the middle of Manchester, which looks great at night, but rubbish in the day. And originally the script was written in the day as well. So, we went out 2 or 3 times to figure out how we were going to do it. We kind of planned that, but it was a strategic film to try and win Virgin Media Shorts. And I think that you can do that. I think that if you look at all of the winning films from Virgin Media Shorts, it's going to give you a better chance, I think, if you look at the way that they're structured and what has caught people's eyes in the past.
Okay, I'm not going to ask you what you think is going to win tonight, though. But we are going to just have a quick look now at Bus Baby, which you referenced earlier.
Virgin Media Shorts, championing undiscovered talent.
Boy, everyone's looking at you. Down here. Everyone's staring at you. They reckon you're too young to be a mum. It's building up, isn't it? No sleep. No time. Why haven't we got our own place yet, Mum? Why are we still at Grandma's house? How's them GCSEs coming along? How are they coming along, eh? They're still watching. They're all still looking. What are you gonna do? You don't see your mates no more. You think you're gonna meet someone else, do you? I've seen your stomach. Looks horrible. Not like you thought it was gonna be. It's not like it is in the magazines, is it? Feed me, wash me, win me, change me. Feed me, wash me, win me, change me. Day after day after day after day after day after day after day after.
Shut up!
For more great shorts, visit virginmediashorts.co.uk.
So low production values, but we made that originally as like a teenage pregnancy prevention thing, but then thought, oh, it works as a kind of a short film as well, so that's why we entered it into Virgin. And I'd actually entered Virgin Media Shorts because I saw Andrew Gaynord, who won the People's Choice, I think in 2009. He's an old friend of mine, and I saw a Facebook picture of him with Noel Clarke, and it said underneath, it said, I can't wait to leave all my old friends behind. I thought, okay, I'm going to enter that this year. That looks like fun.
So tell us a little bit about the kind of process on that one. Was it different or the same in terms of your kind of?
It was very different, wasn't it? Because we were working. Jason was making these teenage pregnancy awareness videos for a local authority, and he asked me to come along to help out with some sessions we were doing with teenage mums. And the idea for that sort of came out of a group discussion.
Workshop, yeah.
Yeah, and then I think we had a few, didn't we? And I wrote them up.
And so you were annotating the workshops, weren't you? And then one of the teenage parents had said that she felt really uncomfortable in public situations, because we got 12 teenage parents to tell us, about their experiences of being a single parent or whatever else, or just being a teen parent. And And it's a great way to actually generate ideas. Maybe that's the way that you should do it in the future, is just go and get a load of people and exploit them and make their idea and then pass it off as your own.
Everyone's got a story.
Well, yeah, no, but actually I genuinely do think that workshop process, lots of things will come out of that, something like that, and lots of different ideas. I mean, nobody said, oh, specifically let's do a talking baby on a bus, but it was just from that one thing that somebody says, and you run off and you write a film, and then you've got a solid piece of work at the end of it.
And you've obviously both worked, kind of in TV, in film, and things like the kind of local authority, and I mean, what are the differences for you as a director and you as a writer in terms of kind of how you kind of navigate those different worlds? Do they feel very different, or does it all just feel like filmmaking at the end of the day?
Well, for me as a writer, it's always very similar. I think it's just a question of having an idea, developing the idea, turning the idea into a script, and then dealing with notes, and then hand it over. So it's a different discipline to write a sketch, a short, a sitcom, or a movie, obviously because of the length. And there's a different format for shorts and movies and sitcoms, character development. There is none usually in a sitcom, but in a movie, obviously, there's huge irrevocable change for a character. So that dynamic takes a bit of getting used to.
I think it's like it's all filmmaking, isn't it? Really, but there is a different dynamic. There's no doubt about it. But I think that when we were doing the local authority stuff, rather than go, oh, it's just a local authority film, we try to do something creative with it. Or we try to do something where we're going to sharpen, our writing. So we were writing on it, and we were kind of like taking time on these low budget little things. But we had money, and we had a little bit of, and we didn't have producers telling us what to do. We could do whatever we wanted on those particular things. So that's the best time to kind of experiment and work on different things. I saw one of the notes on one of the Virgin Media things where they're going, oh, no film gets in without it being a DSLR film and stuff like that. And that was just, little Z1 camera, and I think that proves that if the story is good enough, then you can still get shortlisted, no matter what you make it.
Yeah. I mean, I would never have known that was a local authority teenage pregnancy prevention.
No, but we were having, we had a budget, and kind of like anything where you're getting a little bit of money for, deserves to be treated right, or kind of like, also we kind of like always had ambitions of going into something more creative than doing local authority work, but it's still film work at the end of the day,
Yeah, I mean, I think that's for kind of people who are sort of starting out, just grabbing every opportunity and trying to be as, whether it's kind of doing a music video or whatever it is, and be as exploit it as much as you possibly can in terms of making it creative and giving it your stamp.
Well, last year when I came after the Virgin Media Shorts final, the BFI curators came up and said, oh, we've been watching your stuff and watching your work develop, which was really interesting to me, because I, first of all, didn't think that curators existed. I didn't think that there was anybody. I thought it was just one person or something eating beans in a room or something. But no, there was like 4 or 5 people who were watching lots and lots and lots of short films. And obviously, if they're watching lots and lots of different short films, they're looking for specific things, aren't they? Looking for ideas and fresh ideas and new takes on things. I think it was worthwhile, because I watched a lot of the short films last year, and I was really interested in why certain shorts didn't get through and certain shorts did get through, and it was really interesting talking to them. So I recommend talking to those people as well, because they'll give you clues as to what they're looking for as well, particularly for this competition.
And in terms of once you get into production, I mean, we've been talking very much about the development process, but once you get into production, I mean, how far do you, David, get involved as a writer? I mean, through things like casting decisions, or do you get involved in that sort of thing, or is it literally at that point you hand it over?
It's a very strange process being a writer, because obviously you do need to hand over control at a certain point, but it's very hard to do that, and you do want to have an involvement in casting decisions and things like that. And even when you're on set, you're thinking, surely you should do a take from over there, and that sort of thing. And you want to say, but you can't. You've got to let the director and the producer get on with it, and it comes down to trust, I think. So I know, having worked with Jason and know his sensibilities and I know his humour and I know that he will make good stuff, I would trust him 100% to hand it over to him and not have any more involvement until I see it and I know I'd like it. With other things, if you've not worked with people before, if you've not worked with them very much, then it's harder to have that trust. So, yeah, I do like to get involved in casting, and I think as long as you respect other people's roles, then I think that you can have a constructive part to play in the production as a writer.
And do you ever write for a particular person in mind in terms of casting? Do you ever kind of go, I want this person to play this role and I'm going to write the character according to that?
Not really, because I think there's a lot of problems arising from that. If you write something for a certain actor and they don't want to do it, or the broadcasters don't like them, then obviously it will go nowhere. But what I do is I think of an actor as I'm writing a part, and I hear their voice in my head. So when we were writing Looters, one of the characters is a supermarket manager, and I just always imagine John Henshaw. He probably won't play it, but I always imagine John Henshaw doing that part. And it just makes it easier to write because you know how he will behave.
We met him actually the other night.
You
We
did,
told
yeah.
him.
Oh, did you?
Yeah. And then
What did he say?
Well, why aren't you
No,
offering
no,
us a
no,
part?
Yeah.
Not offered him. But we had his voice. We nicked his voice.
We nicked his voice. But I think as a writer, it's a really good technique to use. I only write comedy, so I can only speak about comedy, but...
we did that thing, didn't we, where we wrote a sitcom script where we wrote it basically as Seinfeld. We took all of the characters from Seinfeld and put them into England.
No one's recording this, are they?
Yeah, it's all right, because Graham Linehan said he did exactly the same thing with Father Ted. So, we were onto something.
Right.
Yeah. And I don't think you can detect it. We didn't steal their words or anything. Just...
No, but it's kind of like, it's interesting that he did it, got Father Ted away,
Yeah,
and that worked. So,
Well,
and then you actually, if you go back now, you can go, oh right, I can kind of see the dynamic that he's taken from Seinfeld.
It was two maids, a crazy character and a girl, and that worked. It's a nice setup for a sitcom.
Mm.
But also, he kind of like listened to people like Ricky Gervais talking about The Office, and where he took his ideas and inspiration from like things like The Simpsons and Laurel and Hardy. And so I think being clever where you reference from is always a good thing. And Tarantino's a great example of that. He's just kind of taken loads of different things from all these exploitation films he saw in the 70s. So go looking through the archives.
I'm going to open it up to see whether we've got any questions from people in the audience today. There is, I believe, a roving mic, so if you do have a question, if you want to wait for put hands up if you have any questions. There's one right down at the front here. Make you walk a long way.
You can probably hear him.
You said earlier that sometimes you would write something that you thought was funny, and then Jason would say that won't work on screen.
Yeah.
Have you got any example of that?
Well, I think my humour is, whilst we cross over at certain points, there's a lot that we both find funny. My humour tends to be a bit bigger, a bit sillier. So I'm a big fan of Will Ferrell films, for example. And so I'll write something that I think is funny, and it could be like a big moment. And Jason can spot that because his tastes are much more Christopher Guest. So he's looking for something which feels very real. And he'll say that I don't think that's going to work because it's too big. That's usually where it happens. Or if he feels it's maybe not in keeping with how that character would behave, or if there's a good moment in Ben and Jackie actually, which we debated a lot, which is where Ben says, and the best that can come out of it is something can happen and I can get a shag. And we liked that line, and it always gets a laugh. And we left it in because it was funny, and we knew it would get a laugh, but we were always concerned that it was slightly out of character for Ben, because it's a love story and he wants to, develop this as a relationship. He doesn't want to just get a shag. So that's a good example of something which we really debated long and hard about whether it should stay in.
Well, a lot of the times you kind of like pick and choose your fights, don't you, with something. If there's something that you really feel passionate about, and if David says, oh no, this is really good, then you back down generally. Go, okay, fair enough, it goes in. But it's picking and choosing those right moments. You know, if there's something that you really believe is going to work in your script, then fight for that, you know. I suppose trust your own instincts on it.
We've got other questions. We've got a couple. Should we pass the mic along? Because there's a few questions.
Just to string out your relationship analogy from earlier on. Do you just work together, or do you see other people as well?
We see lots of other people. I mean,
Yeah,
David.
he's a slag.
Yeah, we kind of work with. I mean, sometimes you get put together with different people. We've been doing some stuff recently with the BBC, and they'll just put us together with a comedian who you've never met before. And sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. But you know, I think it comes down to that trust thing and the building a bond and a trust early on.
How's it working in terms of prioritising? Do you find that clashes?
No, we're not busy enough. So, you know, if we get busier, then maybe, you know, but I think that at some points you have to prioritise what projects you want to work on. I mean, it's been taking a long time for us, for me personally, to clear some work out the way to solely focus on looters. So, yeah, I think that sometimes you've just got to really prioritise what you think is really important.
But also, I think it depends on the project, because ultimately Jason's a director who writes, and I'm just a writer. So I can think of an idea and I can sit down and write it. And if it ever gets to the point where it needs a director or it needs something shooting, then I would always go to Jason. And Jason, I think, would think of his own stuff, and if he needs a writer, he'd probably come to me. But I'm sure there'll be other stuff that he'll just, like 220, where he will just think of it himself, and he doesn't necessarily need a script for that, and it wasn't comedy, so he wouldn't come to me. So you just go and make it.
I did actually come to you. You said to set it in a doctor's office.
Don't you try and blame that on me. This is like Big Babies all over again.
Yeah. It's true. Yeah. No, yeah. If it's comedy, then generally I'll go to David. But also because it's going to be fun. I know it's going to be, you know, we're going to have a laugh doing it, you know. I think that's just, you know, everyone's got to enjoy going to work, haven't they? So work with people that you get along with. That makes things a lot easier.
We had another question, Steve.
This one's a bit of an adder question, isn't it?
Yeah.
How conscious are you of the medium you're working in? So when it comes to making a short film or an advert, is there different languages? And often short films, I mean, perhaps why they're getting so popular is they don't have, you know, a lot of them are corresponding to the language of an advert, and that's how people survive by making adverts eventually.
Well, I know that Paul Wheeland has set up an agency based on the Reed contestants. People have been going into the Reed thing, winning the Reed thing, and then been taken on by his agency. So there's a direct crossover there. And I know that Oscar had. There's a couple of points. John Hurt had said, it's really difficult to break into the industry. There used to be short films shown before feature films in the 70s and early 80s, but that's gone. So, but Virgin Media Shorts have kind of brought exposure back to short filmmakers. So it's a great way to get back into the industry via shorts. The crossover between adverts and short films is pretty clear. I mean, I think that Bus Baby works like an advert, and we always said that was something that was going to count against it. Whereas 220 worked more like a short film. So I think there's a subtle difference, isn't it, between the two? But I think there is a slight difference between something that you could point as going, that works like an advert and that works like a short film.
It seems like increasingly people's definition of cinematic means it going back to being a visual medium opposed to it being something that's sort of dialogue driven or audio.
Yeah, I mean, kind of like, I think there is a difference, and also kind of like the two worlds separate themselves as well. The people who are working in television, or the people that are working in film, definitely distance themselves from anything that feels too much like TV, and so it's usually the cinematography which is going to kind of do that, as well as the storytelling as well. But it's a strange one, but because now there's been, with things like The Wire and The Sopranos, there's kind of like there's a crossover now where TV's becoming more cinematic, so it's becoming a little bit more confusing.
TV, film, and there's HBO, their own.
Yeah, HBO is they're doing it right. Yeah, but there's definitely people in television now are starting to kind of like, and I think it's to do with cost of cameras as well. Kind of there's crossover of kit, and DSLRs kind of are making that easier for people, aren't they, to kind of get more of a cinematic kind of look to the stuff they're shooting. Which is strange, because when we first entered with Bus Baby, we thought, oh look, there's all these people who've got DSLR cameras, they're getting the cinematic look, we need to get DSLR cameras, and now there's like an oversaturation of people shooting on DSLR cameras, and there's people are distancing themselves from that. So I'm not sure what the next step will be, but I think it's technology. The lines are becoming blurred, yeah, and technology is bringing everything closer together.
Other questions? I just wanted to ask you, actually, we talked a lot about your relationship, and it's obviously one that's going to hopefully sustain and be ongoing, but I just kind of wanted to know what's next for you guys as a team. Obviously you're working on things individually, but kind of sort of...
David calls this a shooting gallery of ducks. You get as many ducks up as possible, and gradually people fire them away. Go, no, you're not doing that, you're not doing that, you're not doing that. Oh, we'll do that one. So I think that's what we've been doing, is generating lots and lots of different ideas. But we have like some feature film ideas that we've really liked. I mean, we got shortlisted for iFeatures. We didn't get through to the last 8, but we got through to the last 16, and I think we're going to try and pursue that particular idea because we think there's something in that particular project.
Okay. Well, unless we've got any more questions. Oh, we've got another question there.
Hi, I was talking to somebody yesterday, and went to another talk yesterday, and the lady there was saying that she thought that it takes about 5 years from starting the draft of a film, of a feature, to actually getting it on screen. It takes about 5 years. In your experience, do you think that's about right? How do you think, how frustrating is that process as well? And how do you go about funding all those sorts of elements as well that are connected?
That's the $1 million question, isn't it?
I think that there's 2 ways of approaching that. I mean, and this maybe goes back to this shooting gallery of ideas, that if you've got more than one thing on the go, then Ben Wheatley's a good example of this, where he just got the money together, got $6,000 together, went off and made Down Terrors, and just made his film anyway. And I think that given that situation, if I had an idea that I really believed in, I wouldn't wait for finance, I'd just go and make it.
Which is what we were talking about doing anyway, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I'd just go and make it. I'd find a way to go and make my film. And also pursue the funding streams as well. I think by going and doing it and being proactive and showing that you can do it is not necessarily a bad thing. And people are always going to be quite conservative, particularly with funding. I mean, they'll test you out. I think they're kind of like, it feels a little bit like you're as good as your last film. We're getting this money to make Looters, and let's see how we do with this.
We've got to do a good job.
We've got to do a good job. We do a good job of it, then you might get some more money to do something else. But in the meantime, we're going, okay, well, I'd like to think that I could go and get $5 or $6,000 and go and make a feature anyway. It's achievable now. You can do it. You get all your crew, you get your cast together. We've got a building, network of people that we can use. So I think there's a lot to be said for just being proactive and just going and making it anyway, and not waiting for that money. Go and make it on nothing, if need be.
My background is more sitcom, and I'm moving into film now. And when I first started, I had an idea, and I spent a lot of time writing it, and sent it off, and then I'd wait for the reply. And they're heartbreaking when you get the rejections in and the project dies. And then I realised this shooting gallery concept, that you need more ducks up there. So it's like the fairground stall, the commissioners are the people who come shoot your ducks down every now and then, one will get through. So if you've got one, you're doomed. If you've got 5, then, or you're working on 5 more coming through, there might be short films, there might be feature scripts, it might be a novel, it might be a sitcom, it might be some sketches, and you're pursuing all different avenues, all different opportunities. Whilst that feature film is bubbling its way through and taking 5 years to get made, you'll have other little bits and pieces just generating some interest and then hopefully generating some money. I mean, it took me, I wrote my first thing in 1999, and I don't think I earned any money from writing until 2006, and even then it was a little bit, so it takes a long time.
It's that thing, isn't it? Kind of like, if all the while, if you kind of like, it took 5 years to get this film made, and you're still doing all this other work in the background, then also by being proactive, you're meeting all of the people who can potentially fund you in the future, and you're building relationships, and I think that's kind of the way to do it.
I think also if you do all the other things while you're working, while you're kind of waiting for that bigger project to hopefully come to fruition, you're learning all the time. So when you get to the bigger project, you'll just make that much better job of it, because you've done the shorts, or you've done, I think they're all, if you sort of sit there waiting and doing nothing for the feature to come along.
And we definitely, we're learning. We're right at the start, and we're meeting people who are much more experienced than us all the time that we're learning from, which is brilliant. And we want that to continue.
Yeah.
This must be the last question.
Just interested to hear you say that you do novels and TV as well as films. So how easy is it because that's kind of how I think as well, but how easy is it for you to move between the 3 different kinds of writing as well? And do you have to have lots of time where you focus on one kind of writing, and then lots of time where you all can dip in and out of it quite easily?
I think it's very hard to switch between them, because they are very different disciplines, and like I say, I started in sitcom, and it took me a long time to learn that, and I've still not learnt it properly. I'm still trying to get better at doing that. Movie writing has only started recently, and I'm studying it just really by watching other films and studying the structure and the characters and listening to people who know more than me. Novels is a whole different ball game, and I've just got half written things, ideas here and there, or a scene that I've written for something. So that's sort of on the back burner really, novels. But I think if you want to write, if you are a writer, if you're a writer, then by definition you want to write. So rather than watching TV or playing computer games, you will go to your computer, sit and write. I think that's the definition of someone who wants to be a writer.
Well, it comes back to that story I told earlier on about, loads of people that said, oh, can I write for this, can I do this, and they'd give you a joke or one, and then you came back with 60 pages, and that to me is what a writer does. They write, they give you the material.
Yeah. I genuinely believe that people in life do what they want to do, and I know lots of people who say they want to be a writer, but they never write anything. They do go to work and they come home and they say, I haven't got time, I've got to watch X Factor, or whatever they want to do. That's fine, and I'm not criticising them, but that is what they want to do. It's not, they think they want to be a writer, and they don't. They want to just have a job and come home and watch X Factor, and they're happy with that.
There's kind of an interesting thing as well, because we're kind of going getting lots of advice from people, and you get tugged in different directions. I think that at some point though, you have to kind of like trust your own instincts on lots of different things. Yeah. So you go, okay, well, I believe in this particular project, because you can get pulled in lots of different directions by people, Well,
particularly if people are funding it as well, because you've got 2 concerns. You want to make something really good, but you want to progress your career. So you don't want to upset people, so your inclination is to try and agree with them and try and understand where they're coming from. But there will be points where it will conflict with what your gut feeling is on the project. So yeah, I think Jason's right. You've got to know, really, I think, deep down.
Well, I think that everything that you've told us today has been a really wonderful example about how kind of trust between the 2 of you can really kind of help in that sort of situation where you're being challenged or questioned, or perhaps have uncertainty about being kind of newer in the business, and it's obviously an incredibly trustful and supportive and kind of mutually respectful relationship that I'm sure lots of people would die for, basically. So if you'd all put your hands together to say thank you very, very much.
Virgin Media Shorts, championing undiscovered talent.